Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the June 20th Public and Protective Services Committee meeting. On this committee, the voting members are myself, Councillor O'Connor, Councillor Berg, and of course, Mayor Clayton. And our first order of business is our delegations. And first up, we have Grande Prairie Sport Connection. I know that you're well acquainted with routine, but if you just come up and introduce yourself for people watching at home. And our delegations today are all organizations I love, so I could let you have all the time in the world. But I better be really strict and only give you 5 minutes and not have that bias to the chair. So you get up to 5 minutes, and then we get to ask you questions. It's okay, I won't start your clock until your computer works.
Okay, great. It's only pictures. Oh, you're not talking about mine. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, you just plugged it in. We're good to go now.
Perfect. My voice projects very well. Good morning, everyone. My name is Karna Gurmscheid. I'm the Executive Director of the Grande Prairie Regional Sport Connection. And I do want to say that our chair, Mike Lozon, does send his regrets. He was coming this morning and then was redirected, unfortunately. So he fully intended on being here, which is no problem. He's a large supporter and would start the conversation by introducing me and also saying that thank you for letting us be here and communicate the value add that Sport Connection continue to bring to the sport and recreation community in the Grande Prairie region. 2022 actually was quite a while ago. We've had several events since. I do want to preface our presentation, though, by communicating that every September or August, our organization gets together to work on our strategic priorities, and those strategic priorities will always align with our funders. So we want to make sure that we are absolutely leveraging the needs of council and council's priorities. So what you see here, it should speak for itself. Education is one of our large pillars. In 2022, we offered 5 different sports seminars. 3 of them were with the Alberta Sport Conference. The Alberta Sport Conference brought in 30 sport leaders from various organizations. It was done in March, and we actually, as you can see there up on the left screen, our format was a little funky due to us still being kind of trying to COVID-proof ourselves. So what we did is we did kind of the James Corden, Stephen Colbert type of online thing where our speakers actually called in and they're on a full screen, just like you can see Wayne McNeil with this respect group there. And they're live feed, and we were able to communicate back and forth with them. And it significantly cut down on our costs, but it still gave us an opportunity to bring in subject matter experts to deliver valuable information to sport leaders in the community. We had Wayne McNeil with the Respect Group. We had Olympian Haley Daniels come in, and we also had Cheryl Humphreys with Sport Law out of Ottawa talking about risk management for our organizational leaders. Later in the 2022 year, we partnered with the Government of Alberta's department, the SPAR department, which is Sport, Physical Activity and Recreation. And what they have us do is they have us deliver sport sessions for our Team Alberta North athletes in the region. And we were happy to do that. We offered nutritional sessions around high performance as well as mental skills for high performance and competing. According to our SPAR colleagues, it was the biggest in attendance that they've ever seen for any one of these events. We had 58 athletes in the room there and 12 online. So it was a great success, and we look forward to partnering with SPAR again. In March also was our Northwest Alberta Sport Excellence Awards. In 2022, it was our first in-person awards, and I think we came out running. We had 35 nominations representing 18 different sports. This is a really valuable event and worth every blood, sweat, and tear that goes into it, because it brings everybody in the together, different sports, and it helps us celebrate those that really deserve celebrating. It helps us support organizations in lifting up their people and saying thank you and giving recognition. So a really great one. We include not only high performance, for those of you that are not familiar with these awards, but also community awards, which include Sport Builder, Unsung Hero, Volunteer Awards, and Sportsmanship Awards. So it's a very good event for the region. Try It Day is another signature event for us. We do 2 every year now. We generally do it in the winter time and in spring. In 2022, our January event, unfortunately, was postponed and then rebooked. All is fine normally for events, but the formula for Try It Day is essentially a bunch of mini events hosted by different sport organizations. So when you roll the date over, unfortunately, you have to start from scratch because you've got to match up volunteers and dates and things like that. So we did lose a little momentum in doing it, but people are ready to come out. We had 315 or so registrants, 15 different organizations, and 22 different activities to choose from. 22 different activities and 15 different organizations. So still well worth it. Kids came out in hordes. By the time we went to June, that registration went up to 680, which is really great to see. In June, it's right here. We had 25 different sport organizations offering 35 different activities. So really significant offering. The goal of this is to increase the exposure of our sport organizations so that they can build membership. They don't always have the reach and marketing ability to promote their own events. So this allows us to push families through their doors and gives them an opportunity to shine. Our website is something that we really lean on. We're only a 2-person organization. So as far as managing a lot of information sharing, we do put a lot on the website and pay a lot of attention to that. In 2022, we had, as you can see, over 26,000 unique visitors. Our online sport directory had over 15,000 hits. So it is a well-used sport directory. Some of those end up calling us or following up with on our website, but we are certainly worth putting in the time to that online sport directory. Last summer, our communications and marketing coordinator spent over 70 hours on one-on-one conversation with our sport organizations post-COVID to discuss, where their challenges were, where their memberships were, where they anticipate their memberships are going to go in the next year or two, and things like that. So we spent a lot of time on the directory last year. Our Facebook analytics, so from all those conversations, 100% of our groups are still heavily using Facebook. Some of them use Facebook for all of their communication. So it's a space where it's really important for us to be thriving in. We had over 21,000, almost 22,000 engagements. So we know if people are liking, commenting, sharing our information, we know they're receiving our information and interacting with our information. So that's a win for us. So year in review, 4 signature events, over 20,000 engaged Facebook users, 5 sports seminars, 17 media mentions, really strong relationship with the media, which is super important for the sport connection. So again, we can help leverage our organizations. 263 direct requests. This is something that's new to you guys. We started actually keeping track of any phone calls, any emails, any reach out to us through the website, and who did it, what organizations, whether it's an individual community member or an organization. So we didn't do it for the entire year, but that 263 represents multiple other contacts. So if I hear from one sport organization, you know that it's going to be 3 to 7 contacts after that as well. So it's a really good piece of information for us to know and share back to our funders. Again, over 15,000 visitors to that sport directory. So I know that that's very quick, and those are our macro KPIs. And I do want to share that consistently we managed to increase our capacity within the organization through systems, ideas such as the on-site sport registration calendar, things like that. So if you ever want to go for coffee and really get some real stories of the sport connection, I'm happy to talk to you at any other time. Any questions? Go ahead.
Excellent, thank you. Around the horseshoe, I see Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. Just jog my memory. I know initially when we started Sport Connection, the initial funding amount from the municipalities was less than currently. Remind me, we topped you up, I think, last year or the year before, and it was initially 75, and now I see in your document the city's at 108 and the county's at 58. Was there a request to the county for more and the request is denied? Can you remind me of the history there?
No, so originally 75,000 from the county, and we had 30,000. So the city did double their commitment at the same time. That would have been around 2018, where you guys bumped it up to 108,000, and then the last one was actually 109,000. So thank you very much. So yeah, every time we ask the city, we ask the county the same thing, and they've never denied us. They haven't.
It started at 75 apiece.
No. 75, 30 for the county. Okay. So the county was significantly less. So
everybody's been increasing.
Absolutely, yeah.
I also think the town of Sexsmith recently started contributing to you, correct?
That's correct. So we are being supported by the town of Sexsmith, and we're actually using the funding model that we used originally for the coordinator for the Grande Prairie Regional Recreation Committee.
Perfect. I have one other, if that's okay. If you have. I know you and I have spoke about it, but I'm wondering if you've had a chance to think of any easy ways. I'd like to celebrate local athletes more. I think that we have exceptional teams, individual players, coaches, etc. Is there an easy way that as a community or as an organization we can highlight a provincial winning football team, a national winning swimmer? You know, is there an easy way that we can highlight those individuals and those teams?
So easy ways are, highlighting them through social media and our connections with the media. Unfortunately, the media has, as you guys are all aware, is less and less these days. I think like events like the Sport Excellence Awards is
sorry,
definitely not easy.
Let me rephrase my question. Sorry, not how we promote, how we celebrate them, how we collect the information.
Oh, yeah. So that's challenging in the sense that there's a lot going on, a lot. So when you consider, our sport database, and we're looking at 170 to 200, that's not including the schools, the junior, senior teams at all the schools as well. And then you build relationships with the coaches but in sport and recreation, there's always such a high turnover, and we've seen that significantly. We have some of the hardcore Troy Sambos out there, right? They've been doing it for 30 years, but certainly to receive that information naturally without actually going out to try to find that information, that's what you want to build, and that's relationship building. There's always going to be misses, even with the sport database. I was thinking this morning, I have a good, strong connection with somebody, let's say, in pickleball. But let's say they have a membership, 120 people. My relationship is with that one or two individual, not every other single member, right? All of a sudden, that rotates and that person leaves town. You got to rebuild that relationship. So it's not, we try to capture, and our marketing and communications coordinator is online all the time because getting nominations is really difficult, and we want to really try to make that event thrive. So we actually try to keep things ourselves, and we always have an ongoing thing. Oh, remember this, or this athlete did this at the comp, this athlete did that. But there's always gaps. I think the best thing we can do is maybe we could start promoting an opportunity. So like we can create an athlete of the year site or something, or celebratory sites. I think if the city has the greatest reach, right, or regional reach, I don't know, maybe we put something like a resource towards that. But it is a challenge. I'm not making excuses. You definitely have to have your thumb on things. Like you're looking over here, and you know that there's great things happen over here every time.
And so let's maybe internally we can talk about that. I'd like to see an opportunity where a provincial or national level winning athlete gets to come to council, and council really appreciates and recognizes the work that they've done. So internally, I'll have some conversations and we'll loop back with you, because I think it's a great opportunity. If you win to just to support Councillor Berg's intent, if you win a national piano competition, you should get to come to council, and council should get to recognize, the great work you've done, and I think that's important. So let us work internally.
I think that could get momentum too. If people know that this is something that they're able to do, right? If we celebrate it and they see it celebrated, the moms and dads out there are also going to be like, oh, you forgot about, Joey over here. And that certainly helps. So I think it's a great idea.
I think the onus is up to the winning individual.
Yeah, for sure. But they need to know that, they also need to know that we want to celebrate.
Agreed.
Them. So I think we can meet in the middle, right?
Yep. Thank you.
I have Councillor O'Connor, then Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Chair Bressy. Thank you, Karna. You always bring so much energy. I was wondering, I've heard such great comments about Try It Day and kids getting to try a sport they would have never tried before, and now they're taking up a sport, which is part of our quality of life thing. So kudos on you for that program. So I noticed in your report, are there any other challenges that you didn't mention that, we could help you with or communicate with you, or what other challenges have you got that you haven't mentioned?
For Try It Day specifically, or just anything? Well, thank you for saying that about Try It Day, and yeah, thank you. The city and the county, all our funders do give gift in kind for the facilities for that, and that makes a big difference. It also is a very sellable event, so it allows us as an organization to create some revenue through sponsorship, because sponsors do like to be associated with events like that. So thank you for your support in that. Challenges obviously is just like continuing to increase capacity with the two of us in the office. So, we are limited by that, and of course that comes down to funding and priorities, right? So if what we're doing is meeting the needs, then that makes perfect sense. But as far as like increasing and continuing to increase capacity and coming up with really great innovative initiatives, that might take a little more support.
So a left-handed way to ask for more funding then.
That's right. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. All odds Try It Day, it's not just kids. It's also, I know that there's juniors disc golf now, and I think there's going to be junior ultimate frisbee in the fall, and both those are because parents showed up Try It Day, said, why isn't this happening all year for kids? And we said, well, we need volunteers, and so volunteers as parents come out of the woodwork and Try It Day too. I've got Councillor Thiessen and then Councillor Bosch.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Bressy. Thanks again for coming here, Karna. It's always great to see you. So that last question segue was right in line with my question. So I feel like through Try It Day, like Sport Connection is really awesome at fundraising. And one thing that I noticed definitely on here is that the fundraising line is blank. And I know we get sponsorships for Try It Day and stuff like that. And I wondered if it was a capacity issue, and you already answered that because from my knowledge, it's only 2 staff. Have you approached the MD of Greenview about partnering? If Sexsmith is involved and the county and the city are involved, I know we got a wonderful facility, Nitehawk, we're going to get a report from that there, out in the MD of Greenview. Is there a chance for extra partnership with another municipal district?
There is always a chance, absolutely. And we have partnered with them. They have sponsored events and things like that. So, we've had a nose before. So then we try to find other ways to create value so that they're giving money into the Sport Connection and to the sport community as well. And we've done that through partnering sponsorships with the MD of Greenview. But yeah, we definitely have that on the table to reapproach them every so often. The thing with the MD of Greenview is that that for capacity within the organization depends on the needs and the expectations from the MD of Greenview, because that increases, how large the MD of Greenview is. Does that mean addition to the sport database? Do they see us as value? We do see MD of Greenview residents coming through our events, but do they see it as much value? So we do need to convince them more of that, and we do need to consider what can we do in partnership. I do have regular meetings with Dina out at Valley View Multiplex, and we're talking about creating more opportunities for inter-regional play, especially for unsanctioned recreational opportunities, because we have some rural limitations on ability to play. Not every parent wants their kid on a travel team. Actually, most parents, I would say, don't want their kid on travel teams. They just want their kids to get out, enjoy recreation and play. So we're looking at more opportunities. With that, yes, hopefully comes some funding.
Yeah, because the way I see it is, even if it's just a small chunk, like I know we take on 108 and then the county takes on 58, but even if it was somewhere leading up towards that 58, it could go a long way to helping you build that capacity within the organization, do the fundraisers, extra sponsorships, and other stuff, make your job easier at the end of the day. So but thank you for the hard work that you do put in, as limited as you might be with your staff right now.
Hopefully I have an update for you next time, yes.
Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Councillor Bressie. Nice to see you, Karna. For your Triad Day, typically, sport, but you have that a bit of out of scope kind of sport feature.
I mentioned that.
And can you enlighten us on what some of those are and where do you see that in the future in growth?
Yeah, it was a natural fit. So I think what Councillor Bosch is referring to is our partnership with the Creative Arts Center. Yeah, so with our Triad Day, our goal there is to, of course, give exposure to our sport organizations, but recognizing that sport is not, the only thing that kids should be engaged with. So we partnered, actually back in 2022 was our first partnership, and we will continue it because it's a super sellout all the time. So they do clay, they do sewing, they do drawing courses. So you see kids actually doing, a sport in the morning and then clay in the afternoon, those types of things. So I think it's just a natural segue. You guys, I haven't seen the sport and recreation, the plan yet, but I think that it would probably speak to, more opportunities for those types of partnerships.
Excellent. A question I've got is, can you tell us a little bit about the Make a Diff program and grant you had, and what would it take to see that again?
Oh, that's a dream come true, actually. So I did receive a phone call just last week from the superintendent of the Grande Prairie Public School Division, Sandy McDonald, and they have received some funding through, it sounds like, the Calgary Police Foundation and the Government of Alberta to focus on Hillside. So the YKU Make Sport for All program was developed recognizing that we have a lot of kids that are outside of sport, and we need to come up with innovative ways for them to be engaged immediately, that critical time between 3:30 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So what we want to do is we want to create some intercity play and multi-sport opportunities for after-school kids in the lower inner schools in that lower social demographic populations within the Grande Prairie Public School Division. So we identified 4 different schools through a grant, and what we did was we also trained 12 different new sport coaches, right, in physical literacy, planning a basic sport program, first aid, CPR, all the good stuff, so that they can go in, get opportunities, and so we can marry education for coaches and opportunities for youth. And we ran that just after COVID. It was quite messy. We actually weren't able to do intercity, but it was to decrease barriers for the kids to participate. They are looking at, and we will be partnering, we won't be running the program, but we will be supporting the public school district in getting funding and implementing another program with trained coaches for these schools in the after-school program. We did videos with the kids, and we heard things like, I like it here because I feel safe. I just like playing, just really, really special things. And these kids are not engaged in absolutely anything after school, which is that critical time, and often they're at home alone. So my intention was to increase education opportunities for more coaches, but also, just like Free Play Edmonton, they have a program there that's an after-school multi-sport free program that is totally subsidized by sponsorship and grants. So that was the dream, is to create a nonprofit organization that can actually do that in our schools, and it would meet a real gap that we've recognized.
Excellent. Yeah, sure. Just before I hand it over to Councillor Bosch, it's Councillor Toole and I should share some. No, I'm saying we should share some notes with you, because we sat in a presentation at the Alberta Association of Police Governance Conference about 2 weekends ago, talking about exactly how programs like that are so fundamental to crime reduction in a community. So we need to pass on some of the notes we took. But I'll hand it over to Councillor Bosch.
Thank you. Just a question on your last comments. Do you work with any of the organizations for after-school programming right now? Is that a possibility for you?
Like Kool-Aid and YMCA. Yeah. So I've been informed that neither of them does any type of sport programming. That's why they brought the Sport Connection into the conversation.
True, but you can give them, some insight to how to help them as well.
Ideally, if we could find a grant, you can hire somebody to run the program, right? That's another, increasing capacity thing. So there are ways, and I know that there is funding out there. If we can marry the schools and the funding, I know that there's an opportunity to really engage and incentivize our teachers too, because teachers are quite often the ones that end up volunteering for these types of things without any kind of kickback, no day off, no money, no nothing. And I think that's ludicrous because our teachers are already over capacity. And when I saw the behavioral challenges that were in all these different schools, because everybody's at a different level of learning, you do need extra supports, 100%. So I do believe we should be incentivizing them.
They're also our gatekeepers of information. They know exactly who needs this more than you or I would know.
Yeah,
for sure.
Better believe it.
Not seeing anybody else, so thank you for the presentation and thank you for the work that you, your staff, and your volunteers do.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon or morning.
Thank you.
That's right. We're an hour behind already.
And now I'll call up Mr. Clarkson to talk about Nitehawk.
What's that? Right, I know that the questions and just I could talk about Nitehawk forever. So I don't need anything else to help me with that. So, again, thank you, Council, for having me this morning. I guess Dylan, do you have to say anything before I start?
No, you're doing exactly what.
Okay, perfect. All right. So again, thank you, Council, for having me here today. Just to give an update on Nitehawk in 2022, and also thank you to Councillor Palat for sitting on our board. Really appreciate your time and your insight into things. So it's been great working with you so far. Anyway, 2022 continued with more capital upgrades at the Hill, things including our snowmaking system, putting our pumps into a new C-can container essentially so that it protects it from the floods that we've seen, high water floods and that we've seen at the bottom of the river that have put it at risk before. We've upgraded snowmaking or snowmobiles, snowmaking guns, continue to do that. Our plan is to continue to upgrade our inventory of snowmaking guns so that, again, we become more efficient and get away from the guns that had nozzles that needed to be changed out with changing temperatures and things like that. It's just always an ongoing battle with changing staff and things like that with snowmaking. It's the thing that makes or breaks our season, essentially. Other things that we did this season for capital upgrades included upgrading the drive wheels on our snowcats. Those wear out every 3 to 4 years, so that was time to. That was a large capital cost there, as well as again we're monitoring the Hill, and that is coming with the monitoring equipment and that we've had to continue to buy to essentially do that. Other things going forward as we move forward into 2022 or 2023, sorry, we will be working with. We released an RFP to the community and awarded it to Barstow Engineering, and we're working with them in their geotechnical division. Installing new water monitoring boreholes on the Hill. We did 2 or 4 dewatering wells at the very top. Our plan is to monitor those wells and determine basically what's causing the issues on the Hill and catching the water before it gets to that place. And as we go forward with this, it's going to. Our plan is to actually remediate temptation and get that back open and ready to go for the 2024 Alberta Winter Games. So that's going to be very exciting. Successes for this past season, we had quite a bit of them coming out of COVID and that. The biggest one was the reopening of the west side of the Hill, which was has been a challenge and really limited our capacity. So our team, with the help of J. Vans Oilfield Services, came in, donated all the labor, all the equipment, rock trucks, dozers, excavators, and built a new cut-across run from the bottom of Show-Off all the way over to the bottom of the new Summit T-Bar that was installed last season. And so that increased our overall capacity for the hill, both with the public as well as our school group programs. So this year we returned back to almost full capacity with our school groups, with about 5,000 students coming out and visiting the hill this season. Down about, we've still got about 2,000 that we can get back, but the biggest limiting factor there has been staffing. And I think I mentioned that when I presented to council earlier this last year, that staffing concerns are still an ongoing thing. So recruitment and retention for our community, I think, is a big priority, and for us as well. So as we move forward here, we've as our 2023 ask had a portion in there for staff housing, and that's going to help us really attract those international foreign workers from Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, as well as Germany. We've had 2 German exchange students this last season that stayed with us, worked with us right through snowmaking and the like. So really excited for that, that we can continue to move forward and have a better offering than a 1960 mobile home that was not the best for them. So really excited for that. As we move forward here too, our board is working continually on planning and the I guess future of the hill in terms of how we recover from this landslide, and going and doing our all of our due diligence to make sure that we're making sure that we have the data. We've got 1.5 years of data now from the monitoring that we've been doing with the geotechnical engineers. That data is then going to be put into a slope model that will then essentially be able to let us tell our municipal partners and the community how we can proceed and move forward, and hopefully one day get the chairlift back. That is ultimately the goal, but there's a lot of gray area there still that we're still waiting on to be able to make that decision. And the promising thing is, though, some of the data that we've been finding with the dewatering wells at the top of the hill is that it may be less costly than what we once thought. So that's really exciting. As we move forward here too, some of the programs that we've developed with our school programs, we're continuing to grow the breadth of the activities that we offer at Nitehawk. We're working with the Celtic program, offering inline skating, disc golf, golf at Bear Paw. We've got skiing, snowboarding, luging, and tubing with the Celtic program, as well as all of our school programs. So again, just expanding into more of an outdoor recreation offering, and again, that year-round piece that we're so proud of. So with that, some of the challenges, I guess, as we move forward, as I mentioned before, staffing is a big one that's been really tough for us. The other thing is, as many of you know, RMA canceled on the insurance for ourselves as well as 12 other ski areas across the province. That has seen, through a 4-month application process, an increase in premium of 3 times. So from $52,000 annually to just over $163,000 for this next year in insurance premiums. Surprisingly, property insurance was the hardest thing to get. I mean, I think we've heard that even people trying to buy homes and that most recently. But our property insurance premiums were $115,000 of that $163,000. General liability worked out to be about $35,000. So, and then of course automobile insurance on top of that. So it's definitely we've taken a hit with that, and we are trying to cash flow that currently. Also, this past season, we saw increases in our energy costs of, well, diesel fuel alone went up 65% from last year. So our utilities, and that's the operating funding that we receive from our municipal partners in the sum of $200,000, which previously would cover our operating costs for utilities and energy, are just a drop in the bucket essentially now. This last year it was over $300,000 in energy costs, fuel costs, and the like. So definitely an ongoing challenge there. Coming into this next season, we will be obviously having to raise our rates a bit to overcome this inflationary issue that we're all being faced with right now. And our hope is as well that as we increase capacity, that we'll see a return to normal business, which will obviously increase our revenues as well there. So some of our successes this past season, very excited that our team has just continued to work hard. As I mentioned, the cut across from Easy Street over to the T-Bar, but also a return to normal with our fundraising. Our comedy night saw a sellout, 475 people in attendance at the Bonnett's Energy Center. So moving to that facility has been a great thing. We also added some sponsorship to that with Solution Services coming on as a major sponsor, as a title sponsor, and Side Rail Group coming on as a banquet sponsor. So again, these are things that we've never done before with that fundraiser. So now to see these community organizations and businesses come in and continue to support in big ways, it's great. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll just open it up to questions because I'm sure there are some, and I look forward to answering them.
Excellent. Thank you. I've got Councillor Berg, then Mayor Clayton.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. Thanks, Jonathan, for all that you do around Nitehawk. But what I want to ask is you to elaborate on some of your summer programs. I know you manage a number of campsites and also Bear Paw.
For sure. So our campground right now, obviously with the fires that have happened in the region and the smoke, there's been the majority of our campground business at Nitehawk is long-term stays and people coming into the region to work. Right now we're sitting at roughly about 40% occupancy there. We are getting word from companies that we've been touching base with that will start to see a return in July here, that people will be returning back to work, and that well sites will start to reopen. Bear Paw has continued to be busy. We actually our revenue on our day tickets, or tea times and buckets, is probably twice what it was last year this same time for the month of May. So that's very promising, and I'm hopeful that continues to go in that direction. The campground, with the return of ball tournaments and that in the South Bear Creek Park area, that's seen an increase in usership as well. So those things continue to move up, and yeah, we're happy to see that return to normal, I guess.
So I'm assuming that these are your low stress things.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. Just a quick question. You mentioned through the Academy program that you're doing some luge training. Tell me the state of the current luge track, and if there's been any consideration for gravity coaster.
So at this point, the state of the luge track, it actually went under Tower 5 and past Tower 4, which Tower 4 was taken out as part of the landslide. So the remediation, if we were to put the luge track back, would require quite a bit of work. Our board, obviously, I've brought ideas forward as we move forward with different capital projects. As you mentioned, a gravity coaster, which our peers in Canyon ski area in Red Deer just installed. We've also had Rabbit Hill and Canyon have installed new summer tubing as well, using a product called Nevaplast that allows you to basically slide down the hill and not need water, which we previously had a water slide at Nitehawk, but the challenge was always water recirculation. It had to be hot out because nobody wanted to get wet when it was below 20 degrees. And that, so these are certainly conversations we're having. The biggest priority, of course, right now is remediating Temptation, getting it ready for the 2024 Alberta Winter Games, and then ultimately deciding how we can move forward with the chairlift. But these things are part of our planning committee discussions.
Great. Oh, sorry, Councillor Thiessen.
No need to apologize, Chair Bressie. I just put my hand up. So, thanks for coming in, Jonathan. I love the work that you do at Nitehawk, and I love the changes and how you and your team tend to, roll with the punches and make the best of sometimes very astronomical, horrible circumstances. Just a question in regards to your challenges. We're approaching the Alberta Winter Games in 2024 in February. With your staffing shortages that you experienced, and some of the costs, and also the hill, the land remediation, are you confident that Nitehawk will be ready to go for those Alberta Winter Games, or are those challenges that you need to address right now?
So we've been having those discussions with the games committee and the like there, and working forward on in terms of what venues are required. We are confident with the facilities that we currently have that we'll be able to host the snowboard, freestyle, and alpine competitions with no problem. I did get confirmation also that even though we are remediating temptation, it's not required for a warm-up run. They don't need a continuous run to the bottom, so it's still something that we need to work towards anyway to get the chairlift back one day. But it's not required for the games. So we've got Show Off, which will be hosting the alpine races on, and then the terrain park we will be hosting the freestyle and the snowboard slope style competitions there. Willow Way will be used for snowboard border cross competition, and then we are actually going to be doing a little bit of earthwork in the old half pipe run, which was created for the 2010 Arctic Winter Games, and flattening that out and turning it into a mogul run for the freestyle team. So our goal was to not have any kids have to leave our community and leave that 17-kilometer radius and go to another ski area for a competition, and we're pretty confident that we can accommodate that. So
Awesome. I echo your confidence, and I think with something like the Alberta Games, I'm coming to town. I think that's a lot of excitement to gear up potentially new hires and to staff up ready for that. So I have every confidence you guys will meet the staff stuff. Chair Bressy, may I just ask one more question, if I may?
Sure, I do have 2 more on the queue, so I'd ask us to keep things brief.
Yeah, it's a quick question. So just in regards to the financial challenges, on July 1st, we're going to see an increase to the carbon tax. Have you guys forecasted that in your upcoming budget?
yeah, so we've looked at all that and working with our treasurer Nelson Winia, we're working through all that and making sure that our budget does accommodate those increases in inflation and carbon tax and all that. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Bressy. Nice to see you, Jonathan. Just a quick question, because maybe I missed it. I don't know, but can you tell us about the biking program, the summer biking program? How's that looking, and are you looking to expand it? How's things going with that?
Definitely. So actually with the biking program, it's been going great. We've got our summer programs. They'll be starting here in July. And then we've also had camps happening right through May and June, being that we had an early spring this year. So we've been actually utilizing the city bike parks, both of them, both up at Crystal Lake and also at South Bear Creek, to facilitate those, as well as our bike park at Nitehawk as kind of the progressionary next step, because downhill riding is obviously a little bit different than cross country and also skills parks. So that is the next step. With our bike park, that has reopened again with shuttle service. So we've got a 15-passenger van with the huck wagon, as we call it, to haul bikes back up the hill. So that's working quite well. And then we just actually made a move we found a new product called the Easy Loop, and it's a platter lift attachment, so works on our surface lift to actually haul bikes back up the hill while the participants are riding on them. So our plan is when that arrives in the next 3 weeks or 3 to 4 weeks, and we install it, that then we'll shuttle to the bottom tube zone parking lot, and then people can hop on the lift, ride the rest of the way up. And if they so choose, we've got about 5 trails at the top there that they can just lap just with with access from that lift. So again, moving back in the right direction. It's not a chairlift yet, but again, one step at a time here. And I've said to our board as well that, you know, if we continue to improve small things here and there and remain relevant, that's the goal. And this past winter, I do have to share it because it brought tears to my eyes. We had an interview from a CBC came out and did an interview with numerous users of the hill this past winter, and Luke Ediger interviewed this one young boy who was about 12 years old and said, "So what went through your mind when the landslide happened?" And this little boy said, "I cried for 2 weeks thinking, I don't know if I'll be able to ever snowboard again." So, you know, that is like, you know, those are the things that really push me to continue to do the things that we do out at Nitehawk. So, yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks for coming in today, and thank you to you, your staff, your volunteers for the work you do. It's an important amenity in our community, so thank you.
Thanks so much, Dylan. Thanks, Council.
Great. And next up, I'll thank Ms. Dunfield for her patience as I invite her up.
Thanks, Dylan. Oh, is it on?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I'm not as low tech as Jonathan. I actually have a couple notes, but they are on my phone, so no presentation today. So thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. I was getting excited listening to some of the presentations this morning because I'm always thinking of ways to partner and support. But today I'm wearing my hat as the president of Métis Local 1990 and coming to the committee and council for a specific request. As you guys are aware, the Elder Shelter was a dream of our Angie Criar to have a facility that would provide low-income housing for seniors. It was built in 2003 with the support of the City of Grande Prairie, government, and the Métis Nation. In 2013, the mortgage was paid off by Region 6 Métis Nation of Alberta. The building is currently owned by the Métis Local 1990, and the land is leased from the city. The 20-year lease expired in February 2023. The Elder Shelter has supported many Métis, First Nation, and non-status seniors to have a safe and caring place to live over the last 20 years. And specifically today, Métis Local 1990 is here to ask the city to grant the land to Métis Local so that we own both the land and the building. With the new Otipemisiwak government being ratified with the Métis Nation, this will allow us to have more opportunities to advocate for sustainable and consistent funding to continue the work that Elder Angie had tasked us to do. Short and sweet.
Excellent, thank you. I'll go to Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bressie, and thanks, Shannon, for being here. Just curious, if we do transfer the land over, what significant benefits will you see? Is the lease prohibitive right now? I'm just kind of curious what you will do with that asset, or what can you do with that asset?
I think there's going to be more opportunity through our government, like our government that'll be coming in through Otipemisiwak. Having the opportunity to have both the land and the building, we'll be able to, like I said, advocate for more funding, sustainable funding, especially as that work continues with the federal government, because we do have, my understanding is with the new government coming, like our new Otipemisiwak government coming in, elections will be happening this September. So whoever will be coming and taking over this area will have the ability to be able to go to our Otipemisiwak government to advocate to the federal government to be able to provide sustainable funding for the resources that we do have. And right now, Métis Local 1990s, building, or only, I shouldn't say only asset, but our asset is the Elder Shelter. And, that's been such a valuable service to the City of Grande Prairie. And I think that, I don't think it's prohibitive right now. What I do feel, though, is that if we do have the land, there would be more opportunities for being able to provide, advocacy and understanding about how that relationship worked and how that land will help us move things forward for the Elder Shelter.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Blackmore.
Thanks, Shannon, for coming in. It was an exciting time in 2003 when we built that building. There was a lot of work between it and Willow Place in the city. My understanding of what you're saying is if you have ownership of the land and the building, it allows you an opportunity to leverage that for future consideration. If you want to build another building, expand the elders caring shelter in any way, that's what I'm understanding, so I just want you to confirm that.
Yes, I think many of you guys are aware that over the last probably 6 or 7 years, Angie has been working very diligently, and now myself, because it comes onto my shoulders, for a second phase of the Elder Shelter. So we have been working with the city on that, and I think having the land for the current Elder Shelter and the building will help us be able to leverage that, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and can you tell what was the amount of the lease payments you were making?
Oh, geez. I don't think it was very much. I think it was like, was it $1? Oh, did we raise it to $2?
Inflation's hitting everyone.
That's shocking. That's a 200% increase.
Yeah. A question I've got before I go to Mayor Clayton is, obviously I understand that if Council grants request, you wouldn't want it to be a drawn-out process, but is there any particular deadline that if we grant this has to be hit, or is it just...
What I would say is no right now. I know currently with the Otipemisiwak government coming in, there's definitely some transition processes that are happening, and we anticipate those will probably be 1 to 2 years. So I mean, if we were able to move it forward quickly, then that would help us in terms of the Métis local, which we will no longer be. So Métis local 1990 will move into a district. So District 13 will be the Grande Prairie and Valley View areas. And so that will help us move forward to determine, how do we move forward to be able to get the best opportunities for the shelter to be able to have sustainable and continuous funding. Because right now, I think we're all aware that that's always been a factor in running the organization as operationally.
I'll go to Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bressy. I just wanted to make a motion to go in camera. I'd like to talk about a land matter.
Awesome. Yeah, that would definitely be appropriate. Any conversation, debate on going in camera? I'll call that question. Oh, and sorry, Mayor Clayton, are you hoping Ms. Dunfield stays for in camera?
Yes.
Get.
Well, I came in and I was
Right.
like, oh geez, I should have brought Angie with me. This is a little bit overwhelming. I wasn't expecting this. Because she would have just hugged everybody.
And I'll just give a moment for technology spool. Buddy, we did hear a presentation. I'll look to members of the committee if there's any business we want to do arising out of this. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. I would move that direct committee to refer this topic to administration to bring back a report for further discussion.
Okay. Definitely in order. Any discussion or debate on that? Okay, as soon as it pops up in eScribe, I'll call it to question, but no rush.
Councillor Berg in favor.
And that motion carries. And, Councillor Berg.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. I would like to recommend that committee accept the first two reports, Grande Prairie Sport Connection and Nitehawk presentations for information. Don't need it?
I don't think we need it.
Okay.
So you're okay moving on?
Yep.
All right, well, but I appreciate you helping us put the bow on that if we needed it. So I'll move on to Director Service Area update with Chief Lemieux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in terms of an update, I'd just like to provide an update on a couple of major capital projects. The first one is a coordinated care campus. We expect substantial completion of phase 1 and 2 in the next week or so, and tours have been scheduled for council to tour the facility on June the 28th. I had the opportunity to tour it last week, so I think you'll be very impressed, and looking forward to that tour on June 28th. The tenant move-in is expected to occur in mid to late July to allow some final program inspections to happen. The second item I want to share with you is the aquatics facility at Eastlink Center is due for a maintenance shutdown that will begin after the September long weekend and last for about 7 weeks. The aquatics shutdown at the Eastlink Center will provide dedicated time to clean all amenities, including diving boards. It'll address broken tiles, repair lights. It'll complete line painting in the 50-meter pool basin and repairing of the 50-meter pool bulkhead mechanical drive. And an additional 3 weeks will be added to the shutdown to include refurbishing the 25-meter pool liner. We'll also be completing over 34,000 square feet of deck resurfacing, and there'll be a completion of the aquatics sound mitigation project. From the Community and Social Development file, pleased to report the City of Grande Prairie signed a $215,000 grant funding agreement with the Tamarack Institute to continue with our community's Building Youth Futures, and that's a program that will encourage youth to stay in our community. It'll involve some community engagement and a larger scale career and education expo highlighting opportunities available in Northern Alberta. Seniors Week, so thanks for members of council who participated in Senior Week. Seniors Week was a very successful week from June the 5th to the 11th, with over 60 seniors participating in various free recreation classes offered at our Eastlink Center. And the Food Access and Security Task Force has launched a food access affordability survey on June the 12th, and the result of the survey will be used to create an action plan, and the results of that will be shared with council. Housing and homeless initiatives, our director, Wendy Hughes, attended the 7 Cities Forum as a member representative of the City of Grande Prairie last week, and they had a live interview on CBC Radioactive, which was very well done. For enforcement services, our enforcement services officers have been attending Safety City presentations, teaching children practices on how to safely cross the street, as well as some bike safety information. And enforcement officers have been assigned to enhanced foot patrols in the downtown core. At the fire department, the fire prevention branch is collaborating with other city departments as it relates to ongoing wildfire mitigation strategies, and a Fire Smart report will be coming back to committee in the next little while. And Chief Bosson and Deputy Chief Van Werkhoven attended the Alberta Fire Chiefs Association conference and their annual meeting 2 weeks ago. And interestingly enough, numerous fire chiefs from other communities from the region attended and expressed gratitude for the support that GP 911 provided through the May wildfires. You have to remember that we cover 43% of the land mass, mostly in northwestern BC, northwestern Alberta, northeastern BC, and that's where the bulk of the wildfires were. So our 911 center was very busy. On the RCMP front, within the past 2 weeks, the Community Engagement and Diversity Unit attended various schools and completed safety school presentations and parent talks. And members participated in a 3D soccer and ball hockey tournament that was held at the Hanson Lincoln Field. And members also took part in numerous pride events held around town and were present for the musical ride at Evergreen Park. Mobile outreach. The City of Spruce Grove has reached out to us and expressed interest in our outreach model. And so we're getting more and more of those interests from other communities, which we're pleased to liaise with. In terms of the CKC, the upcoming Eastlink Center Triathlon is scheduled for July the 9th. We have 223 registered athletes with 4 Special Olympic teams competing in a demonstration category in advance of our upcoming 2025 Special Olympics. They're still looking for volunteers, so if anybody's interested, visit the ELC website to sign up. And the 3D charity ball, hockey, and soccer event held on June 9th has increased school attendance from last year, so we're happy with that. And the Pride Carnival on June the 12th was a fun day on campus with pancakes, breakfast, carnival rides, and 23 community alley trade show groups. So that was very, very well received and well attended also. And lastly, from sports development, staff attended a sport event congress on June 6th to 8th and met with multiple national sport organizations for opportunities to bring to the region. And the South Beach Regional Archives has been approved for a grant of $250,000 through the Government of Canada's Cultural Spaces Fund. It's anticipated that renovations for the relocation project in Centre 2000 will begin soon. And lastly, the organizing committees have begun planning for the 2024 National Aboriginal Hockey Championships, as well as the 2025 Special Olympics Alberta Summer Games. And being the Special Olympics Alberta Summer Games being a large multi-sport event, the organizing committee would like to invite a member of council to join the committee. So, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure how we address that, whether that's just a mayor appointment or whether we need a report to council or a motion from this committee. But the Special Olympics organizing committee would like a member of council to sit on their committee.
I think what I'd suggest is,
Thanks, Chair Bressy. I think the most appropriate method would be a letter to be sent to council, and then the mayor can consider it.
Okay, thank you. We'll make that happen.
Excellent. Director Blackmore, or sorry, Councillor Blackmore, Councillor Berg?
I like being Director Blackmore. Sounds very official. Can you tell me, Chief Lemieux, are we either through enforcement services or RCMP, can we expect any bike patrols this summer? Are they running, not running? I haven't seen any.
Yeah, so I believe we have some bike patrols planned, and I'll share some more details with council. But I don't have the details right now, but certainly they're in the planning process.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Councillor Berg?
Thank you, Chair Bressy. So, Director Lemieux, when we're shutting, when you say the aquatic center, I'm assuming the Eastlink Center portion or the aquatic center portion of that. It shut down for 7 weeks, fairly substantial work. Is this something that happens about once every 10 years? It's not an annual thing or every 2-3 years?
Well, there are regular shutdowns, and we look to our corporate facilities department to make recommendations in terms of if we need to shut down, how long do we need to shut down. It's not uncommon for facilities like the aquatics area to be shut down for regular maintenance. As you know, our pools are full and operating at all times, so the only way that we can conduct the regular maintenance is to shut everything down and drain everything. So so this is longer than we've experienced in the past, absolutely, but there are more projects that will get done during that shutdown.
Okay, thanks.
I am not seeing anybody else, so we'll move on. I'll hand it back again to Chief Lemieux to introduce our next report on housing and homelessness funding.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an item that's on the outstanding items list, and Wendy Hughes, our Housing and Homeless Initiatives Director, is here to present the report.
Good morning, and thank you through the chair. The report before you is in response to a motion that was made at the November 15th Council Committee of the Whole, specifically stating that administration will provide information regarding housing and homeless grants funding, including a breakdown of where the funds are used. So to provide a brief overview of the report in front of you, there is a mandated process for both provincial and federal funding allocations. There are 3 funding streams in the report, those being the Provincial Outreach Support Services funding, or commonly known as OSSI funding, as well as Federal Reaching Home, which is designated community funding, and as well Federal Reaching Home Indigenous funding. Once funding amounts are set, directives related to how the funding can be allocated are provided. The city, as the community-based organization, ensures that funding decisions with respect to directives are led through the Community Advisory Board on Housing and Homelessness. This is a federally mandated board that is comprised of 15 volunteer community representatives in a variety of areas. We also have resource members attending, that being Council, Housing and Homeless Initiatives, and provincial and federal representatives. So with respect to funding, it is the job of CAB to ensure that priorities identified in the federal community plan and the provincial service delivery plan are met through fair and transparent funding processes. The city, as the community-based organization, brings information forward from several sources, including regional, provincial, and Canada-wide information and trends provided through training, conferences, forums, the 7 Cities Group, outcomes from existing programs in the community, the Housing Hub Table, and mobile outreach data. Other information provided to CAB are provided through the homeless strategy, which had direct involvement of local agencies, as well as the housing needs assessment. Feedback as well from one-on-one meetings with agencies and biannual engagement with agencies is also shared. CAB also hosts 1 agency per meeting to provide the opportunity for agencies to share information on their services and potential gaps they are facing. The city, as the community-based organization, manages a total of $5,986,939. So to provide a breakdown, that is $4.5 million in provincial OSSI funding, $831,000 in federal designated funding, and $644,000 in federal Indigenous funding. As you can see in the report in front of you, significant investments in housing in the amount of $3.4 million have been made. This equates to 148 supportive housing units and up to 140 participants in scattered sites, as well as 31 transitional units. This helps individuals and families maintain safe, stable housing, avoiding homelessness, and avoiding return to homelessness or chronic homelessness. CAB recognizes that prevention and diversion is also an area of importance. This year, we reinvested $200,000 from supportive housing and reallocated it appropriately into outreach supports for youth and seniors, as well as education and eviction avoidance programs. The total investments in prevention is $1.16 million. This includes coordinated access, landlord supports, rental assistance, and eviction prevention. Other supports, such as food security at $240,000 and administration at $639,000, represents $879,000. Administration is responsible for grant funding reporting, liaison with the Community Advisory Board on Housing and Homelessness, the Coordinated Care Campus Advisory Committee, the encampment response, working with other affordable housing projects, housing needs assessments, affordable housing strategies. We are a 7 Cities member. We provide training, housing hub table coordination, advocacy data, and much more. Lastly, in emergency programs such as daytime programming and at the Street Outreach Center, as well as the winter emergency program, equates to $530,000. So that rounds out our $5.98 million. In closing, I would like to acknowledge the collaboration of the different levels of government, as well as our local agencies and our CAB. Through these important partnerships, we are able to continually seek solutions in addressing and reducing homelessness. With that, I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Excellent. I see Councillor Berg and then Councillor Bosch.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bressie, and thanks, Ms. Hughes, for the presentation. So my question is around the $5.98 million. When we get that, how much of that is committed on the spot, and how much flexibility do we and you have to respond to changing events?
So thank you through the chair. Specifically, the funding is usually based on a 4-year term. So we do go out to RFP or RFI, so there's a procurement process that we enter in. So that ensures that we have fair funding across the board. There is some flexibility in terms of there's some year-to-year opportunities, such as the winter emergency response. So that could mean that we could leverage some slippage that perhaps was left over from last year, and other programs that haven't used that program dollars, we can reallocate it into other funding opportunities.
Terrific. That brings me comfort knowing that we have that flexibility to respond to different situations. And then one quick follow-up, if I may. Can you tell me roughly how much of this funding goes to the Community Care Campus project?
Certainly, I do have that. So for the Coordinated Care Campus, we do have a budget of $1.627 for operating costs and $240,000 for food security.
Okay, and so that comes from this budget then?
That's correct, and that includes 24-hour supports as well.
Thank you.
I've got Councillor Bosch and Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Indy. My question was around the $240,000 for food service through the Coordinated Care Campus. Now, food service is that the only food service that you provide? Is there any like prevention or seniors or any work done with any other organization that has to deal with food service?
Through the chair, thank you for the question. We do have some funding that is allocated to the Grande Prairie Friendship Center, and so they ensure that if there's any food insecurities, that they are met through funding.
Is that part of this 240?
Correct. That is not actually included in the 240. That is specifically allocated to the Coordinated Care Campus.
Oh, okay. And we're already cooking in that kitchen, or how is that working right now?
So currently it is not operating. As you know, that we have 25 tenants that are currently residing in modular units. There is no access to the kitchen. So the community kitchen ran through the Salvation Army provides those meals as part of the Supportive Living Act.
Okay, and just to follow up to that. So back to this, when you get in fully operational, that 240 will substantially change, correct?
Potentially, through the chair, we are looking at the design of the kitchen to ensure that we're able to operate out of it.
Right, but the food costs will increase because the residents will increase, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Blackmore, then Councillor Plott.
Thank you, Chair Bressy. It's long been one of my concerns that we don't give enough. We put a lot of money to housing that is specific to homelessness, and I've always felt for the last 25 years that we don't put enough support to people who are at risk of homelessness. So people who are essentially working poor. And you did mention briefly that there is an eviction prevention program. How much money is allocated to that, and how would people access it or indeed even find out about the program?
Thank you, through the chair. So that particular funding stream is actually allocated to the Grande Prairie Friendship Center. And so they're able to identify through their scattered sites what that looks like in terms of individuals that are facing either food security, excuse me, paying for utilities or paying the rent. And so each individual that is in scattered site certainly has been allocated to a caseworker, and so that information comes forward, and then we're able to look at the funding that we do have existing and then offset that so that they don't enter into homelessness.
So what do we do about George and his family who are not living in a scattered site? They're in their own apartment, and they're struggling to meet costs because of increased inflation, or they've missed a utility payment 6 months ago, and then they missed another one, and then they're struggling to figure out whether or not they should pay the rent or buy food for their kids. Mm-hmm. Where do those people fall into our planning continuum? How do we keep them supported so that they can recover and go on to be as productive as they always have been?
Thank you, through the chair. So I would have to dig a little bit deeper into that with my team and provide that information for you at a later date, if that's okay.
I would appreciate that. That has been long a concern of mine, that we don't do enough for people who are at the point of tipping into homelessness.
Two things I'll highlight is a recommendation I was going to make to committee is I think we should ask for a similar report to this on the FCSS side, because FCSS is supposed to be about prevention, and I think a lot of those programs there are. And I also think it's important for the community to know that one of the FCSS funded programs, I believe it's FCSS, but it's definitely a well-running program, is the Kiki Win program through the Friendship Center, is exactly what you're asking for, Councillor Blackmore. People call there and they can get everything from help getting that utility payment or that rent, to advocacy to their landlord, to helping with some life skills. I know I've personally referred members of the community there that are saying, hey, I'm about to lose my home, and they've reported that programs kept them in their home. So call the Friendship Center if you know somebody that needs help. I'll turn it over to Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Chair Bressy. I just want to echo Councillor Blackmore's comments. I think for me, it's been wanting to see this report. It was nice to see the numbers finally, to kind of have a better sense of it. Was a little bit shocked about how little goes to that transitional stuff. So my question is on the 1.6 million that the coordinated care campus will consume out of this budget. What happens with it now? Like, currently this budget's rolling like this is, and then we're going to divert funding currently from folks over to the coordinated care campus. So what happens within the supportive housing? That money, where does that money open up from, I guess?
Thank you, through the chair. So the 1.627 budget is for a full operating year. So that is specifically for the coordinated care campus. So if we have slippage out of that, then we're able to reallocate that funding, either carrying over to future years or reallocating to other programs that are in need.
Okay, so is the 1.6 new funding, or is it out of this existing funding that's here now?
That's out of the existing funding that is represented in the report.
So I guess my mind's wondering, where's it going now? Like, if those folks if they're not living in the coordinated care campus, out of that supportive housing unit, like, I'm just trying to get my head around where that money's going now. We're waiting for facilities to open up, and I was assuming that money be earmarked for that, but I'm just kind of confused on where that money's currently going now.
Okay, Thank you through the chair. So the fiscal year actually runs from March 31st. So that's the beginning of the fiscal year. And we base that on a full year of operating costs. We are aware that we're not into the building yet. And so we should see some reduction in the variance reports as well. But in order for us to identify that funding up front, this is the process that is laid before us. So we apply for or identify for a full year, and then at the end of the year, we will see some variance. You are correct in that. Right now, we only have 25 tenants, so that will be offset from March 31st beginning to when we move into the building and we're able to bring on more tenants.
Okay. And if I can come back in the queue if there's other ones that I wouldn't.
No, I think go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Just, I guess so I can fully understand the fund, Councillor Berg asked about the funding. You mentioned 4-year cycle. What's it benchmarked? Is it a per capita funding? Do we have to go fight with the government every year to get money on that for a 4-year term? Like, I'm just kind of curious, what does that look like when that funding comes up? What's it triggered to? What's it tied to?
Thank you through the chair. So it's set at the federal and provincial levels in terms of what the population is seeing and the numbers through the point in time count. They also look at Canada-wide. So what does our city look like in comparative areas? And that is essentially how it's allocated. And then once that funding is communicated to the municipality, which is the community-based organization, the city, then we're able to take that funding and then make some decisions in terms of what's happening locally.
Okay. And sorry, one last one. I am curious on the transitional housing and the funding, how it's set up through CAB. If there was an appetite within CAB to say we'd rather fund transitional versus supportive, is that something they're allowed to do and they're allowed to fund it that way, or?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. I think right now we have transitional housing right now that's housed at Wapiti House. So the top 2 floors, they are fully they're filled. So there's 31 individuals up there that we allocate the funding for. So certainly we wouldn't take away from that transitional housing project. We do have a bit of room in supportive housing. However, with bringing online Fletcher House and the coordinated care campus, we just want to set a budget that is realistic, that will also attract service providers. Right? So they have to base their funding on a year as well when they apply for the RFPs.
No, appreciate the report. I think Councillor Bressy's comments about the FCSS funding would also be nice to know, just to kind of see how these all layer in. It is pretty complex, and I guess in 5 years, this is the first time I've kind of seen this level of detail. So I do appreciate kind of knowing where some of this money is going and the different options. So thank you.
Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Councillor Bressy. You said 1.627 or 1.267 for the coordinated care campus?
1.627.
Okay, I wrote it wrong.
No worries.
My question is, with the coordinated care campus and Fletcher, when you have, whichever operators are going to be running each of those, does that include some of this administration costs? Like you have administration here, $419,700. Do we have city staff right now in any of those, well, not the Fletcher, but in the coordinated care campus where it'll change funds? Like it'll move from operations or move to operations from administration?
Thank you through the chair. So those budgets actually do have administration costs in them so that the local agency, whoever it is, could be other local external agencies that apply for RFPs. But there is a line item for their own administrative costs. So they need supports in terms of collecting rent and providing financial reporting to the administration body, which is the CBO or city administration. So when you look at what I have identified here as administration, I'm referring to city administrative staff.
Which are doing that job right now?
Temporarily, we are providing service at the coordinated care campus until there is a service provider secured at that particular location.
Okay, Thank you.
I'm not seeing anybody else in the queue for questions, so I think you're off the hot seat for questions. I will just look at committee to see if there's any business anyone wants to do. Personally, I can't make motions, but two things I'd personally think might be worth committee considering is asking for a similar report on FCSS funding so we can get a look at that prevention piece. And also, this is really useful information that I've never seen before. And I wonder if this might be something we want to ask for on an annual basis instead of once every 5 years when council asks for it basis. But I can't make motions. Or somebody could just receive for information too if that's all they want to do.
If I may, I would just like to add that the funding that we have identified here, we're looking into also publishing on the CAB webpage.
Awesome.
So do we need a motion, Mr. Chair?
We need a motion of some sort, whether it's to ask for more information or to just receive this information for
I will move that we receive this information, this report for information. Thank you.
Okay, definitely in order. Any questions or debate? I don't see any. I'll call that question. And Councillor Bressie is in favor. Motion carries. And is there Councillor Berg?
Yeah, I'd like committee to. I'd like to make a motion for committee that we ask or request from administration a similar report on FCSS, please.
Thank you, Councillor Berg. I really appreciate that motion. Any conversation or debate on that? Just need a minute for it to get into e-scribe. Oh, Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. I'm just wondering if it's possible, this report, when I'm sidebarring with Councillor Bressie, if I'm understanding, is kind of ongoing, like what it looks like now. I'm just wondering if it would be possible to show a year back and a year forward, just for administration, just to kind of know where we've been and where it's going, just so if it's possible, if it's not too much extra work for administration, just to give us a little bit more history on it.
Excuse?
Thank you through the chair. Yeah, absolutely. We can do comparative and we can also publish that on the webpage from year to year.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm just looking at, should that be included in this motion, or would we need another motion for that? Does it need a motion? Yeah. Mayor Clayton?
You just do a friendly amendment to have historical data.
So, Councillor Berg, would you be open to friendly amendment putting at the end of this motion FCSS and previous years homelessness and housing?
Of course.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks, Chair Bressie. I'm not sure if Ms. Hughes is fully understanding what you're asking for. Just maybe some clarity.
So, if I understand what Councillor Plott's hoping we get out of this is the exact same graphs we got from the 2023 to 2024 year, but for 2023 year. And I know that's what you're asking for. And I don't know if we've got a budget yet for the 2024, 2025, but whatever information we might have about 2025, 2026, or sorry, 2024, 2025.
Thank you through the chair. So we will publish those on the webpage. Would that suffice, or would you like a complete report brought forward?
Sorry.
Yeah.
So there's two things going on here.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if we could deal with the FCSS item, so the next report that comes back to this committee, if we could add some historical data, and then when you post the information on the report that you just did today, if there's access to historical data, that would be great.
Thank you.
So
Right.
that doesn't need to come back.
Thank you.
Sure. So then, Councillor Berger, okay with us striking out the friendly
Let's just go
amendment?
back to the original
Yeah, I
FCSS.
just wanted it to identify as historical data. There we go. Now it's
Oh, I get what,
okay.
Gotcha. Councillor Clayton and Councillor Plott were on a different webpage. Yeah. Well, sometimes I like to make things complicated. I know. All right. Well, I'll call this to question. All right, and just to be crystal clear on what happened, we just passed a motion asking for reporting on FCSS information. We did not pass a motion asking on homelessness, but we have been told that that information will be posted on the website regardless. So, are you comfortable with that, Councillor Plott? Without a formal motion? All right, so I think this could, this concludes business on this, but great. We do have one more agenda item. I'm actually going to hand the chair over to Councillor O'Connor. I've got a presentation I have to make out in Wembley. I haven't been using a computer. But... Thank you, Councillor O'Connor.
Okay, I would like to, there is no correspondence, there's no other business. Go to item 6, bylaw and policy review, 6.1, and that should be so this is Chris Manuel in the room. Is that Chief Lemieux? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I will speak to this report where we are recommending Council give 3 reading to Bylaw C1455A, that being an amendment to the Municipal Police Commission bylaw. So the Police Amendment Act, which has been given royal assent recently, will modifies the Police Act to make it mandatory for any RCMP service city of more than 15,000 residents to establish a policing committee. So as a city, we will continue to have a working relationship with the RCMP throughout the 5-year policing transition process. So given Council's vote on May the 29th to disestablish the Municipal Police Advisory Committee, and given the soon-to-be mandatory establishment of this policing committee for the city, it's recommended that Council now amend the Police Commission bylaw to establish a policing committee of the city. And under the attached proposed amending bylaw, the policing committee will be established, and a membership of the policing committee will be identical to that of the police commission, with each meeting of the police committee occurring as an agenda item within each meeting of the police commission. So basically what we're asking is for the members of the police commission to also act as the policing committee for the city of Grande Prairie. So our administration recommends that recommend Council give 3 readings to the attached bylaw. Our city solicitor was involved in drafting this amendment, and I believe he's online and prepared to assist in answering any questions, but I think the proposed amendment's fairly straightforward. But I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions before we get a motion, or who would like to make the motion? Councillor Berg?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. Thank you, Chief Lemieux, for the excellent explanation in short form. I would like to move committee recommend Council give 3 readings to Bylaw C1455A, being an amendment to the Municipal Police Commission bylaw.
Okay, that motion's in order. Any discussion? Call the question. That was carried unanimously. And then we'll move on to the outstanding items list. Chief Lemieux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to ask for 3 amendments. Item 1259 is actually a report that was presented in April, and I forgot to ask to delete that item. So 1259 was covered back in April of this year. Item 1239 can be removed. That's a presentation that Ms. Hughes did today. And item 1258, I need to change that to Q3. And that strategy is just about ready to come back. It'll come back probably directly to Council. But so those are the 3 changes that I would ask that our committee makes to the outstanding items list, please.
Okay, I need someone to conduct the business, please. Any questions first? If not, Mayor Clayton.
So moved.
Okay, we'll call the question. Oh, that would be a good idea. It's not coming up. I'm in favor.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a question.
Go ahead.
Chief Lemieux, I find accepting the outstanding items list as presented. By next standing committee meeting, could we have a date on the Fire Smart information?
Yes, absolutely. We'll get that to you. And I expect that report won't be too long, so I'm expecting within a month or so you'll see that report.
Perfect. Thank you.
With that, I'll call the adjournment of this meeting, and we'll take a 2-minute break and go right into why not 3 to 5 minute break for